Welcome back to Justification. Again, my name is Linwood Jackson Jr., and I'd like to welcome you to our dialogue, our conversation about what's real with this word or this term called justification. And thus far, we've been digging into it slowly, and we've been taking our time. We've been patient, and I think that's the right way. There's a way to understand Bible, and it's more than understanding what we think we know or what we think we profess a belief in. It's really doing what really nobody wants to do. It's digging into the language to test our faith. Everything that we uncover, everything that we go through, it's going to test our faith, our actual belief in what we claim to believe. And that's really what I want. I want this to be interactive. I don't want this to just be some kind of one-sided thing where you're taking information in, weighing it with information that you already know, and then making a decision that you already have concluded before we've sat down together. There's information that we all have, but that information needs to be weighed, needs to be vetted, and it needs to be contrasted. And this is the contrast, Bible. We're taking the information that we know, that we think we have trust in, and we're weighing it with Bible. And we've been doing it by going back to the definition of this word justification, looking at it in the Greek and Hebrew sense. And what we've done is we've formed a theme combining these two definitions as they're found in the Greek and the Hebrew to a chastening for liberty is what the definition of justification is. This is the theme that we're going by when you combine the Hebrew and the Greek terms of justify. So we're going through an experience. The Bible wants us to understand that this term justification is an experience. It is an experience that is difficult, and it's difficult for the purpose of liberty. Now, we have not spoken about what that liberty is as yet, but if you're tuning in, you can pick it up. I'm not going to give it away, and I don't even want to hint at giving it away because the depth of it, the breadth of it, it's pretty deep, and it's different. It's deep and it's different from what we know traditionally, or from what we may believe just generally. So what we're doing is we're stepping away from the nominal side of things. We're stepping away from the traditional side of things. We're stepping away from the self-centered aspect of Bible, of religion, of philosophy, and we're letting the Bible dictate its own culture. And where we ended off last time is just a brilliant place to pick right back up, which is picking up at the experience of giving self to words. Because there is nothing physical, there's no physical entity called God if we're going to be real with ourselves. There's nothing physical that we can say, okay, I'm going to go down this street, make a left, make another left, and make a right, and there's God. This is it. It's going to be right there. There's no building, no matter what we want to call a building. There's no person, whatever we want to call a person. There's no thing, no matter what we want to call that thing. There is nothing that we can point to as something representative of a stimuli for us to be a certain character. Everything is mental. So because everything is mental, we can either continue to create the facade or the belief that we are what we believe we are without having any concrete fact or experience of that, or we can actually go within the Bible and look at the words and allow those words to have or to play a bigger part in our life. And this is where we last ended off, is that our devotional conversation needs to have a living experience with words. Words. And that's absolutely difficult. It's absolutely difficult because the next question is how? And then I think the underlying question that, or the question that, in the subconscious of that question of how is why. Why do I need to have a experience with words? And the answer really isn't that difficult. And you know what? I don't even have to give the answer. So the answer is already in the Bible. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 42, this plan is laid out, like completely. It is completely laid out. Isaiah 42, 16 and 17. Isaiah 42, 16 and 17. And it reads, "And I will bring the blind by a way that they knew not. I will lead them in paths that they have not known. I will make darkness light before them and crooked things straight. These things will I do unto them and not forsake them. They shall be turned back. They shall be greatly ashamed that trust in graven images, that say to molten images, ye are our gods." This is the plan. And I'm going to put this in quotes, the plan of salvation. There's a plan of salvation for the Bible. In this term salvation, we are going to get into, but not yet. But this is that plan. The plan to bring the blind by a way that they have not known. And what way is that? Well, what way have we come from? What way are we coming from that we know? What is the way that we know? It's not difficult. What do you know about religion? What do you know about your journey thus far? What can you say has cemented to you your belief? What continues to cement to you your belief? Outside of handwritten commandments that have been passed down, beliefs that have been passed down, theories that have been passed down and that continue to be expounded upon, commandments, holy or holidays, and certain rites and policies. This was supposed to be the formal way of doing things. We're going to get into, not just yet, we're going to get into the, according to the Bible, the modern present day way of doing things, because the Bible is letting us know that there is a former way. There is a former way, or there will be, at a certain point in time, there will be a former way, and then there will be a new way. The new way is to bring the blind by a way that they have not known. Part of that is what we've been discussing. There's comfort in ritual. There's comfort in ritual because it's familiar. It's familiar because it's ingrained. It's routine. What's routine is comfortable. And human beings, as we are, we do not like to think. We do not like to be uncomfortable. We do not like to think in uncomfortable ways. We like ease. We like routine. We like cycle. We like categorizations. We like things that make life less thinkable. Whatever is involving thought and whatever is involving the expression of feeling, whether that feeling is to embrace or whether that feeling is to refrain from embracing, in a sense, humility. We don't like to think or feel. We don't like this. It aggravates us. And so a very good way to solidify one's belief without the extra baggage of having to discipline self or of having to manage self is through routine. Doing a routine and putting the body into practice relays a message to the brain that what is done is good, and that what is done is good if believed on for a higher purpose. And so routine can become the foundation of one's belief and of one's faith, because the more that the routine is done, the more that one's faith is believable, not just to self, but to others without. So there is a show within, and then there is a show without. And this routine is, or this tradition, it is held in regard because it has absolutely nothing to do with challenging the daily exercising of faith, of thought, and of feeling, which is crucial to the development of our conversation's character. An experience with words flips the script, like completely. An experience with words flips the script because you're no longer relying on a routine. All of a sudden, you have no crutch. All of a sudden, you don't have that thing to hold in your hand to give you confidence. All of a sudden, you don't have this pool of water to dip into to let you know from a perspective of mind that you have been cleansed in some sort of fashion. A relationship with words does not give you the type of comfort or the type of pillow that a routine and that something physical can give to you. So when the Bible is saying that the intention is to bring the blind by a way that they have not known, the conversation relying on routines is a conversation that is blind. It is blind because it cannot see the intention behind the words within the Bible. It's blind because it cannot see the intention behind its original faith. It is blind because it has given its original faith and the interest of its faith to a routine. This routine has kept the faith small. This routine has kept the pregnant ambition to know the living God, the belly that is swollen, as a continual swollen belly and as a unborn thing, unborn life form within that has not been born and is no longer gaining life. It's just remaining still in the womb. To bring the blind by a way that they have not known is to bring individuals relying on traditional aspects of religion and of self and of spirituality through a process of a direction that is a change in comfort. It is a change in comfort because it involves thought process. It involves actually looking at what you're looking at and what you're believing on and what you're giving yourself to. Proverbs, but why? Why is this new way? Because we don't know this new way. If we had to think about it, we don't know what the Bible is talking about when it says, I'm going to bring the blind by a way that they have not known. I'm going to lead them in paths absolutely not known. We know the paths that we know. You can ask anyone. You can think to your own self or rationalize with your own self. You know what you know. But the Bible is saying that you need to stop and get away from what you think you know. The intention is to take you from what you know to be a credible source of faith and of confidence, devotionally and spiritually, into a direction where it is just natural. That is unnatural to continue a routine to stimulate a belief. Unnatural. We shouldn't need a prong to guide our faith. We shouldn't need a prompt to remind us, oh, that's right. I have a belief about something. Going back to the illustration of our bodies, yes, they have impulses. Yes, they have prompts for activation, but it's without thought. It is without thought because within that body, again, is a code of information through practice and through exercise. It has taken faith on and it lives by it. We have to have within us a code of information specifically for our devotional conversation of how to operate and how to function. This is how we be. This is how we let the words relay to us being. This is the why. That is the why. The why is being. The why is being to the living God and to self as true as possible, because we can then only be as true as possible to one another when these two things are in alignment. When these two things are in alignment, when our devotional conscience is right with the living God's words, when our devotional conscience is right in the classroom of the living God's philosophy, self will find itself in line by that correction, allowing us to be for one another what we are supposed to be. And this leads us into the book of Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 7. Proverbs chapter 7 and verse 1 through 4, which, when you talk about the experience with words, when you talk about what does it mean to have an experience with words, we don't have to look far. I'm supposed to give myself to words to words within a book. Okay, this book is just a book. What can this book do for me? Well, the routine I have, the routine belief I have, that does more for me because that's more real to me than a book. But what's more logical? Believing in something that one has no credible belief in, or disregarding where the belief should come from. This is the counsel and this is the advice for us when it comes to deciding to let belief reign through understanding. To no longer let belief reign through the old way of having an influence of routine and tradition dictate the legacy, or the communion, or the show of devotion that we have to whatever we believe we have a show of devotion for, or a belief of devotion for. Proverbs chapter 7, just absolutely phenomenal, which is absolutely beautiful. Proverbs chapter 7 and verses 1 through 4. Proverbs 7, 1 through 4 says, "My son, keep my words and lay up my commandments with thee." So this is the how. How do I have an experience with words? Keep my commandments and lay up my words with you. And we're going to, as we go through this journey of justification, we're going to understand what these commandments are and what these words are. We're going to understand this because there's cues that you pick up when you're experiencing that go beyond something that is written. You may read something that is written. You may believe the 10 Commandments are something that I must keep. Well, who can keep them? When you go through the experience of putting those words into practice, Commandment 3, Commandment 4 into practice, not taking it out of its context, receiving it as it is and experimenting with it as it is for results that vary and that you do not know, a direction that you do not know, you gain wisdom, you gain commandments, you gain principles that do not stray from the underlying principle of that third and fourth commandment. This is the counsel, is to lay my words and lay my commandments with you. The next counsel is to, in verse 2, Proverbs 7 and verse 2, keep my commandments and live. Keep my commandments and live, and my law is the apple of thine eye. Bind them upon thy fingers, says chapter 3. Write them upon the table of thine heart. Say unto wisdom, and there it is. Say unto wisdom, thou art my sister, and call understanding thy kinswoman, and I will stop there. The answer of why we need to give our conversation to words is because we need wisdom in what those words are saying. That's it. We need wisdom for what those words are saying. We need wisdom in order for our faith to keep us. We need wisdom in order for us to keep our faith sane. In both cases, sane. We need wisdom in order to live. We need wisdom in order to understand what to die for. We need wisdom to understand who to die for. We need wisdom in this life. And the former way, which is the way that we still know of cementing or manifesting or demonstrating one's spirituality through routine, through the belief on traditional thought and theory and pen of theologian. This former way of routine is taking us away from the wisdom we can be retaining from practically exercising our faith on words. The exercising of our faith on words gives us knowledge. This knowledge allows us to have an understanding to bind on our heart, to live by. The Bible only cares for us to live practically. That's it. This philosophy within the Bible is for a care of practical living. This care of practical living involves challenging the belief we have with the words that are within the Bible. That means going through the Bible and picking up the little disagreements that we have within. From the things that we read. God is good in here, but he's not good over here. One thing says this here, but another thing says this here. This is written in this way, but the context of this way changes when I'm over here. Looking at these little things that the Bible throws at us, these little jabs, right? The Bible throws at us little jabs to mess with our intelligence, as if we don't know that it's throwing little jabs at us. But the problem is that we get frustrated with it. We get frustrated with it, and then that frustration turns to us relying on a guide. And this reliance on a guide allows us or moves us or encourages us to take effort in finding more guides because we're not getting the answer that we got from the last guide. And so 25 guides later, 5, 10, 15 years later, we're still in the same devotional condition that we were in when we first had an inkling to learn anything within the Bible. We're still in the same condition. The only difference is that now we're hardened into the routine of the belief. We're hardened into the routine of the belief. We are hard in it. We are not soft in it. If we were soft in it, we would continually open our mind to experience our belief in new ways, in new illustrations, in new demonstrations, and in a practical manner for wisdom personally. That's what the Bible is getting at. This new way to understand the Bible's thought is through a personal actualization of what these words are trying to say. It is personal. It is intimate. This new way is a way of, or the way or course of learning. It is a course of learning for the purpose of developing wisdom for understanding self. And not self in a natural sense, primarily self in a devotional sense. Firstly, understanding self's devotional character allows us to build up enough character and enough of self-esteem to tackle the low self-esteem that we do naturally have. Developing the conscience that is within of our conversation, developing the character of our faith allows us to strengthen and have care to strengthen the character that we have within our human being and the faith that we have in self. Everything begins within. Everything begins within. This is why the Bible calls for wisdom. Once wisdom is within, there is nothing that we cannot do in this life. Meaning, there is nothing that we cannot practically accomplish for the well-being of self and for the well-being of other selves. Now that entails a lot. That entails the discovery of self and the discovery of self's industry and the discovery of self's industry for practical use and the discovery of self's industry for practical use for benevolence. Now that's the highest rung on Peter's ladder, right? Charity is another word for benevolence. And the charity is not the kind of charity that we're used to when we think of charity as giving clothes or giving this or giving that or giving this or soup, or that's not the charity that the Bible is talking about in its language, in that Greek language. The charity that the Bible is talking about is benevolence, and the benevolence that the Bible is talking about isn't physical. It is mental. It is directed towards self. It is inward. Caring for the self and the devotional conscience of another is the highest level of human activity that we can attain to. Because by doing so, we are actually benefiting the nature of their human being, which is allowing them to spark thought for who they should envision themselves to be for betterment. This new way that the Bible is getting us to think about is a new way of self-development for the highest attainment, the distribution of benevolence. And that can only happen as we take these words seriously. What does it mean to take those words seriously? It means to take what we learn, and just as it says in the book of Proverbs, to take what we learn and to bind what we learn on the table of our heart. Which means that we have to be the writers. We are so accustomed to traditionally believing, let go and let God, is a saying that I hear frequently. Let go and let God. But the Bible's letting us know that there's more to that. The Bible's letting us know that we have to cooperate. And our participation appears in the form of us actually taking an effort to write on the table of our heart. We're not sealing it over. We have nothing to do with the course that life will lead us through for that sealing information, for knowledge. We have nothing that we can do. The only thing that we can do is the effort of picking up and writing on our heart. And that writing on our heart, it means just as it says, Proverbs 7 and verse 2, keep and live. Keep and live. Keep and live is directing us to what we read in Isaiah, as to keeping what is learned, reviewing what is learned, and testing and honoring what has been reviewed, and simply living. Just live. You're reading, whatever you're reading, meditate on it, dissect it, take its principle and live. Take its principle and live. This is the interaction with words that we are supposed to pass through. And this is the key aspect of justification. It's the key aspect of justification because in John 15 in verse 3, this almost slipped from me. John 15 in verse 3, we read, now you are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. We're going to continually return to this verse because this is the verse of what justification means. It means cleanliness through words, cleanliness through what is spoken or through what is written. This isn't physical cleanliness. This cleanliness, this baptism is a baptism of the mind. We're going to get into this. This is what justification is pointing to. This chastening for liberty is the chastening of the mind for a liberty of the mind to honor the living God according to the philosophy that is within the Bible, without any force, without any pressure, and according to self, not in a negative way, but in a positive way. So exercise, build confidence in your exercise of faith to know what you believe.